Can the heavy mantle of leadership ever truly shield a heart from the echoes of its past? Can the roar of presidential motorcades drown out the whisper of a name once cherished under simpler skies? For Captain Ibrahim Traore, the man steering Burkina Faso through turbulent times, these weren't just philosophical questions. They were the ghosts that rode with him in the back of his armored Mercedes, their cold breath fogging the bulletproof glass more effectively than the relentless Ouagadougou humidity. Tonight, the rain was a furious curtain, each drop drumming a frantic rhythm against the roof, mirroring the restless beat within his own chest. He'd just concluded hours of tense negotiations, discussions about dams and debt, futures mapped out in cold, hard figures. Yet, his mind wasn't on the millions pledged or the kilometers of road promised. It drifted, pulled by an invisible current towards a time before the uniform, before the title, before the crushing weight of an entire nation settled onto his shoulders. He was only 35, yet some days he felt ancient, weathered not by years, but by the relentless pressure, the impossible choices. His gaze drifted past the blurred neon lights, the slick streets reflecting a fractured image of the city. He saw the official version, the swept sidewalks and polished facades presented for his inspection. But Ibrahim craved the unfiltered reality, the pulse of life beneath the veneer. "Stay this course, Sergeant," he commanded, his voice tight, overriding the driver's suggestion of a cleaner, quicker route. "I need to see the city as it truly is, not just how we wish it to be." The sergeant, a man accustomed to protocol and predictability, merely nodded, guiding the heavy vehicle through the increasingly congested streets near the Grand Market. The air thickened with the smell of wet earth, charcoal smoke, and exhaust fumes. It was a smell Ibrahim knew intimately, a smell from a life he sometimes struggled to believe he had actually lived. The traffic slowed to a crawl, a tangled mess of sputtering mopeds, overloaded taxis, and determined pedestrians navigating the deepening puddles. Rain lashed down, turning the world outside into a wash of gray and distorted color. And then, through the streaming window, a flash of faded blue plastic caught his eye. Beneath it, huddled against the unforgiving concrete wall of a shuttered shop, was a figure. A woman, trying vainly to shield herself, and a small bundle beside her from the deluge. Her posture radiated weariness, a bone-deep exhaustion that seemed etched into her very silhouette. Even drenched and diminished, something about the defiant angle of her head, the way she held herself against the storm, sparked a flicker deep within Ibrahim's memory, a jolt like touching a live wire. His breath hitched. It couldn't be. Not after all this time. Not like this. Still with me? Drop a yes in the comments to let me know you're tuned in. "Stop the car," Ibrahim ordered, the word sharp, cutting through the low hum of the engine. His head of security, instantly alert, protested from the front passenger seat. "Captain, this area isn't secure. We should proceed immediately." Ibrahim didn't turn. His eyes remained fixed on the figure under the plastic sheet. "I said stop. Now." There was a finality in his tone that silenced all argument. The heavy door clicked open, and before his security detail could fully react, Captain Ibrahim Traore stepped out into the driving rain. The expensive fabric of his suit darkened instantly, plastered to his skin by the cold downpour. His bodyguards scrambled, fumbling with umbrellas, positioning themselves protectively, but he waved them back with an impatient gesture. He needed to do this alone. He walked towards her, each step heavy, his heart pounding against his ribs like a trapped bird. The noise of the city seemed to fade, replaced by the roar of the rain and the frantic thumping in his ears. The woman looked up as he approached, her eyes widening first in surprise at the sudden appearance of a well-dressed man flanked by security, then narrowing in confusion. He stopped a few feet away, the rain plastering his hair to his forehead, dripping from his chin. He could see her face more clearly now, gaunt and etched with hardship, but undeniably, terrifyingly familiar. The shape of her eyes, the curve of her jawline, hidden beneath layers of pain and time, but still there. Isata. The name escaped his lips as a choked whisper, barely audible above the storm. She flinched as if struck. Her eyes, when they met his, were filled with a whirlwind of emotions, shock, disbelief, fear, and a profound, gut-wrenching shame that made Ibrahim's own stomach clench. She instinctively pulled the ragged plastic closer, trying to shrink away, to disappear back into the shadows from which he had plucked her memory. But it was too late. The fragile wall between his present and his past had crumbled. Ibrahim. Her voice was rough, broken, a ghost of the vibrant sound he remembered. A small, battered cup, likely holding her day's meager earnings, slipped from her trembling hand. Coins scattered, skittering across the wet pavement and vanishing into the murky puddles with tiny, insignificant plinks. A sudden flash of lightning illuminated the scene, freezing them for a morbid tableau. The president, soaked and powerful, and the forgotten woman, exposed and vulnerable. Two souls caught in the wreckage of time. They stood frozen, oblivious to the chaos swirling around them, the impatient honking, the splash of passing tires, the curious glances from huddled onlookers. It felt as though the entire city, the entire world, held its breath. He took a tentative step closer. Isata, it's really me. She recoiled, physically pulling back. No, she stammered, scrambling to gather the scattered coins, her movements frantic, desperate. You shouldn't be here. I can't. Look at me. Her voice cracked, thick with self-loathing. Look at you. There's nothing left. Go away, Ibrahim. Please. Her plea was a knife twisting in his gut. The shame radiating from her was a tangible force, pushing him away, highlighting the vast, cruel chasm that now separated their lives. His head of security moved closer, murmuring urgently, "Captain, we must leave. This is becoming a security risk." Ibrahim felt torn, the weight of his office pressing down on one shoulder, the weight of his history crushing the other. He saw Isata not just as she was now, but as the bright, ambitious girl he had known, the girl with dreams as vast as the Sahel sky, the girl he had once shared those dreams with. Guilt, sharp and piercing, unlike any political pressure he had ever faced, flooded him. He couldn't just leave her here. He couldn't unknow this. He nodded slightly to his security chief, acknowledging the risk, but his eyes never left Isata's face. "Just talk with me, Isata," he pleaded, his voice softer now, stripped of authority, filled only with a raw, human need to connect. Somewhere dry, a hot meal, nothing more. Please. He saw the war in her eyes, the ingrained fear of the streets battling the flicker of recognition, the memory of a different life clashing with the harshness of her present. Her gaze darted from his face to the imposing figures of his guards, to the gleaming Mercedes waiting like a spaceship on the gritty street. It represented everything she wasn't, everything she had lost or perhaps never truly had. The silence stretched, thick with the unshed tears of years. Finally, almost imperceptibly, she gave a single, jerky nod. "A meal. Then you leave me be." The ride to a quiet, secure government safe house restaurant was suffocatingly silent. Isata sat ramrod straight on the plush leather seat, acutely aware of her damp, ragged clothes against the opulent interior. She kept her gaze fixed out the window, refusing to meet Ibrahim's eyes, her knuckles white where she gripped the small bundle she had been shielding earlier, which he now realized was a sleeping child, perhaps 4 or 5 years old. Ibrahim watched her profile, the proud set of her jaw still visible beneath the weariness. Memories flooded him, stolen moments under acacia trees, shared bowls of simple food, whispered promises about changing the world together. He had been so focused on his path, his ambition burning so brightly, that he hadn't seen, or perhaps hadn't allowed himself to see, the diverging paths, the shadows gathering around hers. "I didn't know, Isata," he finally whispered, the admission costing him more than any political concession. "If I had known it would come to this." She turned her head slowly, her eyes holding a profound sadness, but surprisingly little bitterness. "We all walk our own roads, Ibrahim. We make choices. Or sometimes," her voice dropped, "choices are made for us." A single tear escaped, tracing a grimy path down her cheek. He fought the overwhelming urge to reach out, to wipe it away, to somehow undo the years of hardship etched onto her face. They ate in near silence at a secluded table, the clinking of silverware unnaturally loud in the tense atmosphere. The child Sullivan, she had murmured his name earlier, slept fitfully in a chair pulled close to hers. Ibrahim barely tasted the food. His mind raced. Seeing her like this had shaken him to his core. It wasn't just about Isata. It was about the countless others living in the shadows of the progress he championed, the faces behind the statistics he discussed in boardrooms. His success felt hollow, tainted by the stark reality of her suffering. He thought about the well-documented, yet often overlooked, psychological hurdles faced by those trying to escape long-term homelessness, the deep-seated trauma, the eroded self-worth, the difficulty in trusting stability even when offered. This wasn't just about providing shelter. It was about rebuilding a person from the inside out, a challenge far more complex than building roads or negotiating trade deals. This was the gap his policies hadn't adequately addressed, the human cost hidden beneath national development figures. "I want to do something," he said finally, breaking the silence. Isata looked up, her eyes wary. "Not out of pity," he added quickly, meeting her gaze directly. "Out of necessity. For the country. For people like—" He hesitated. "For people who deserve a real chance." She waited, suspicion etched on her features. "I'm planning to establish a major foundation," Ibrahim continued, leaning forward slightly, "focused on empowering women forced onto the streets, providing secure housing, yes, but more importantly, comprehensive support, trauma counseling, skills training, job placement, childcare. A holistic approach." Isata gave a short, harsh laugh, devoid of humor. "And you want me to be the poster child? The rescued street woman, proving the president's benevolence?" The sting in her words was sharp. "No, Isata," he said firmly, his voice regaining some of its familiar command, but softened with conviction. "I don't want you to be a beneficiary. I want you to run it, to lead it." The fork clattered from Isata's hand onto her plate. She stared at him, stunned into silence. "Me," she whispered, incredulous. "Run a foundation? Ibrahim, I haven't finished school. I have no papers, no experience in offices or management. I've spent years just trying to survive." He held her gaze steadily. "You have experience no degree can provide. You understand the reality in a way I never could, in a way policymakers and academics only theorize about. You know the fear, the desperation, the resilience. You know what these women truly need, beyond just a roof. You know the pitfalls, the false promises, the gaps in the system. This foundation needs authenticity. It needs your heart, your knowledge, your fight. It needs you. His belief in her was absolute, shining in his eyes. For the first time since he'd found her in the rain, a different emotion flickered in Isata's expression. Not fear or shame, but a fragile, almost forgotten spark. Hope. "And Sullivan?" she asked, her voice thick. "What about my son?" "A safe apartment for both of you," Ibrahim promised. "Near a good school. Everything you need to start again. Properly." She closed her eyes for a long moment, picturing it. A door that locked, a bed that was hers. Her son sleeping safely through the night. "Why?" she finally breathed, opening her eyes, searching his face. "Why do all this?" Ibrahim looked down at his hands, then back at her, his expression somber. "Because changing a country means nothing if you can't change individual lives. Because I climbed high, Isata, but I nearly forgot to look down. Seeing you, it reminded me what truly matters." The transition was jarring, brutal in its own way. Moving from the constant vigilance of the streets to the quiet solitude of a clean, simple apartment felt like emerging into blinding sunlight after years in a cave. Isata and Sullivan walked through the small, two-bedroom flat, furnished plainly but adequately, in a daze. There was a kitchen with a working stove, a bathroom with running hot water, beds with actual mattresses. For Sullivan, wide-eyed and clutching Isata's hand, it was a palace. For Isata, it felt terrifyingly precarious. She waited for the other shoe to drop, for this fragile dream to shatter. On her bed, she found a small, neatly wrapped box. Inside, nestled in tissue paper, was a small, slightly worn teddy bear, identical to one Ibrahim had gifted her awkwardly during their teenage courtship. Tucked beneath it was a note, written in his familiar, decisive hand, "For new beginnings. I believe in you. Always." Isata sank onto the bed, clutching the bear, and wept. Not tears of sorrow or shame this time, but the painful, cleansing tears of hope beginning to crack through years of hardened despair. The initial months were a battle. Isata threw herself into the planning for the New Dawn Foundation, as she insisted on calling it, rejecting Ibrahim's initial suggestion. She attended workshops on nonprofit management, budget planning, and personnel leadership, absorbing information with fierce determination. But the shadows of the street lingered. She struggled with trust, flinching at unexpected noises, hoarding small amounts of food instinctively. She questioned her own capabilities constantly, battling nightmares and flashbacks. The psychological weight of her past experiences, the deep-seated trauma, and the ingrained survival mechanisms were barriers as formidable as any lack of formal education. This was the research gap made real. Providing resources was one thing, but healing the invisible wounds to enable true reintegration was another challenge entirely. Ibrahim, true to his word, gave her space, offering resources and support through official channels, but avoiding personal interference that could be misconstrued or undermine her authority. He received progress reports, saw her quiet determination in planning meetings, and felt a growing sense of pride mixed with a profound respect for her resilience. Rumors inevitably swirled. The press, sensing a story, speculated wildly about the president and the mysterious woman he had seemingly plucked from obscurity. "What is your precise relationship with director Isata Diop?" a journalist asked pointedly during a televised press conference. Ibrahim faced the cameras calmly, his expression unreadable. Madam Isata Diop, he corrected gently but firmly, is the executive director of the New Dawn Foundation. She is a woman of extraordinary courage and insight, who has overcome adversity few of us could even comprehend. Her lived experience is the vital heart of the Foundation's success. She is not, as some gossip columns suggest, my mistress. He paused, letting his words sink in. She is far more important than that. She is a testament to the strength of the human spirit and a developing leader our nation should be proud of. His public validation was a shield, deflecting scrutiny and reinforcing Isata's position. Meanwhile, Sullivan blossomed. Enrolled in a local school, he devoured books, made friends, and shed the haunted, watchful look he'd carried for too long. Isata would often find him asleep at the small desk in his room, his homework scattered around him, a peaceful smile on his face. Seeing him safe, seeing him dream without fear, fueled her resolve like nothing else. 6 months after that fateful, rain-soaked encounter, the New Dawn Foundation officially opened its doors in a renovated government building. Isata, dressed in a simple yet elegant locally made suit, stood before a crowd of dignitaries, supporters, and the first cohort of women entering the program. Her voice, initially trembling slightly, gained strength as she spoke. "Not long ago," she began, her eyes scanning the faces before her, "I stood where many of you have stood, lost, invisible, believing hope was a luxury I couldn't afford. Today I stand here not as a victim, but as a survivor, as a leader, as proof that a hand offered at the right moment can change everything." She spoke of the practical help, the beds, the training, the childcare. But she also spoke of the harder work, rebuilding trust, restoring dignity, fighting the internal demons born from trauma. Her words resonated deeply, bringing tears to many eyes. Ibrahim watched from the front row, his heart full. Their eyes met across the crowded room, a silent acknowledgement passing between them, not of regret for what was lost, but of profound gratitude for the strength they had found, separately and now, in a way, together. A year drifted by, marked by challenges and triumphs. The New Dawn Foundation wasn't a magic wand, but it was a lifeline. It became a beacon, studied by delegations from neighboring countries. Isata, now confidently inhabiting her role as executive director, worked tirelessly, her past informing her present in powerful ways. She was tough but fair, empathetic but demanding, pushing the women towards self-sufficiency while understanding the depths of their struggles. One cool evening, she did something she hadn't thought possible a year prior. She invited Captain Ibrahim Traore for dinner at her apartment. It was the first time he had visited her home since she moved in. Sullivan, now a bright and articulate 9-year-old, proudly showed Ibrahim the table he had set, complete with wildflowers pilfered from a nearby park. Isata cooked dishes from their shared youth, flavors that spoke of memory and tradition. The aroma filled the small apartment, a stark contrast to the sterile silence of Ibrahim's official residence. "You haven't forgotten how to make maf," Ibrahim commented, savoring the rich peanut stew. Isata smiled, a genuine, relaxed smile that reached her eyes. "My grandmother taught me food carries our stories." Sullivan, seated between them, listened intently before asking, with the unfiltered curiosity of a child, "Were you two in love when you were young?" A sudden, awkward silence descended, thick enough to cut with a knife. Then, simultaneously, Ibrahim and Isata burst into laughter, the tension dissolving. Your president here was far too serious, always planning revolutions, Isata teased. And your mother, Ibrahim retorted with a playful wink, was too smart to be distracted by idealistic boys. The evening unfolded with easy conversation, shared anecdotes, and laughter. Titles and protocols faded away, leaving only 3 people sharing a meal, connected by a complex tapestry of past and present. As he prepared to leave, Ibrahim handed Isata a formal envelope. The Foundation's charter has been fully ratified. And this, he added, tapping the envelope, is your permanent contract as executive director. Full autonomy. Inside, tucked behind the official documents, was another handwritten note. You saw potential in me before anyone else did, Isata. Now it's my turn. Her eyes misted over as she looked up at him, a universe of understanding passing between them. He wasn't just a president or the boy she once knew. He was the man who had offered not just rescue, but belief, and in doing so had allowed her to finally believe in herself. The rainy season had returned to Ouagadougou. Isata stood under a sturdy umbrella, looking at the exact spot by the shuttered shop wall where her life had irrevocably changed 18 months earlier. The air was thick with the smell of damp earth. A hesitant figure approached her, a young woman clutching a sleeping baby, her eyes mirroring the same fear and desperation Isata remembered feeling. Madame Diop, the woman asked softly. They said you might be able to help. Isata lowered her umbrella slightly, offering a warm, understanding smile that crinkled the corners of her eyes that no longer held shame, but shone with purpose. She extended her hand. Yes, she said, her voice gentle but firm. I can. Come with me. Let's talk about a new dawn. As she guided the woman towards the waiting Foundation vehicle, Isata felt a profound sense of completion. She hadn't just survived. She had prevailed. And now she stood as the gatekeeper, opening the door for others, perpetuating the cycle of hope Ibrahim had reignited within her, a cycle her country desperately needed. The rain continued to fall, but this time it felt like a cleansing, washing away the past to nourish the seeds of the future. We hope this story moved you. Stories like these remind us of the power of second chances and the importance of seeing the potential in everyone. If you enjoyed this narrative and want to hear more content that explores the depths of human experience and resilience, please consider subscribing to the channel. Your support helps us continue bringing meaningful stories to light. Click that subscribe button, and let's continue this journey together.